Well, this was a January release, if I've ever seen one.
The ultimate January release.
What a painfully generic film.
Come on, damn it! Pull up!
Y'all need a pilot?
If you hadn't told me this was a Mel Gibson directed film, I never would have believed you.
Yeah, and that's the most disappointing thing, I think. You just watch this and you're like, oh, Mel.
Mel.
You embarrass yourself.
Yeah, the guy's done Braveheart. He's seriously like underrated in terms of all-time great film directors.
Sure.
He's so good. You know, everyone talks about like John Woo and his slow motion, like all this stuff, but no one ever mentions Mel Gibson and the way he uses slow motion. One of the things that makes his films distinctly his, in my opinion, and this has none of that.
No, this is painfully generic.
And you're boring. And you're totally ordinary.
I mean, minus even the slow motion stuff, there's just no Mel Gibson isms
Right, there's
in this at
nothing
all.
in it that would make you think like, oh yes, we're watching a Mel Gibson film.
Yeah, there's only one thing.
What's the one thing?
That's the sequence where Mark Wahlberg is like getting out of his handcuffs, and that's like Mel Gibson's really good at the violence and the gore and stuff.
Yeah, when he's pulling his hand out,
So-
like you see his skin ripping off.
Yeah, so that's a little right there. Like that's it though. You know?
I mean, could have been any first-time director coming in and doing a movie like this.
Sure.
I mean, at least they didn't waste time. I mean, it's a 90-minute movie. They got in and out.
It's fast anyway. That's the best thing you can say for it is you won't be here long.
They didn't give you a chance to care about anybody. But it's also, for a thriller, kind of very lighthearted in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it had a bizarre tone.
Kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Like it starts off with a very goofy tone, you know, especially thanks to Topher Grace.
Mm-hmm.
So
Playing Topher Grace
playing
as
himself.
usual.
He's basically just his character from that 70s show, grown up.
Mm-hmm.
Serviceable, I guess. But he's bringing the jokes and the humor, and it's like, well, I guess some of them are landing, some of them definitely not landing. But you're like, what is the fucking tone of this movie? Are we trying to go for serious? Because then when they bring in the U.S. Marshal character, she's like 100% serious all the way.
And talk about someone who is just so unbelievably
Painfully
bland.
generic.
Yeah.
Mark, Michelle, Topher, we're gonna try that again. I want more intensity. Yeah, more is more.
I mean, she does a fine enough job, but there's just no personality to
No,
her.
there's nothing to grab you. There's no
No.
nuance. It's just read lines,
Yeah.
act scared. But speaking of the plot, Topher Grace is a criminal turned witness, turned
Yeah.
state witness
Yeah.
for a crime family.
Sure, and the crime
And
family wants him dead.
They want him dead, so she's like tasked with taking him from where he's hiding out in Alaska back to New York so he can testify in a trial.
Sure.
So she charters like a plane to fly like a short distance so they can get on the big plane that's going to take them to New York. And their pilot is
The hitman hired to take him out.
Marky Mark, who I guess he's having fun in this movie. He's just this unhinged lunatic hitman.
And he just added to the weird tone of the movie because, like you said, Topher Grace is kind of there as the comic relief, but then so is he, sort
Yeah,
of?
because he kind of starts off like what he's saying kind of fits the scene.
Yeah.
But then he starts cracking these little jokes, but they're not jokes the way Topher Grace is cracking jokes. Topher Grace is cracking jokes that are like, you could tell they're like specifically for the audience, not for the people in the scene.
Yeah.
It's that kind of humor.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas Marky Mark is just, he's laying it on thick, but it's in service of the scene.
Fucking crazy, man. Fucking crazy.
His goal is to just fly the two of them out to nowhere, kill them, and then, you know, we're done. But he gets overpowered, I guess, after a struggle. He gets chained up in the back of the plane, and then very selective scenes where he comes back and causes a problem. And then
Yeah.
the whole movie is just about them trying to figure out how to get back to Anchorage so they can land this plane and get Topher Grace to New York.
Yeah.
That's the whole plot.
And it's almost like this film is divided up into sections. And like basically each section is marked by when he gets free and there's a struggle.
Right, when
And then-
Wahlberg figures out how to break out of his restraints
Yes.
and attack them,
Yeah,
only
because-
to be subdued a few minutes later, and then he's relegated to the background.
And that's what
again.
happens like 3 times in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Now, I understand like making like a tight little intimate thriller with your three actors.
Sure,
and that's
yeah,
kind of
but
that's what this strives to do.
It's kind of what it's like sold as, but severely misses the mark in a lot of ways.
It does. I guess a film that's similar to that might be like Panic Room, where you've got like this little one set basically.
Yeah.
There's more rooms in the house, so there's technically more sets. But it's a one location.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like
characters.
our handful of characters are stuck there.
Yeah, yeah.
And how they deal with it.
Right. And then occasionally they get on the phone and you hear these very clean, crisp voices of the people they're talking to.
Obviously rehearsed.
Yeah, talking them through. And they always sound like they're just reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, like another movie that like you could say is that kind of feeling is like Red Eye.
Oh yeah,
where
exactly.
it's like the two of them are like kind of the main focus on this plane, even though there's other people around and stuff like that. But it's like you get that thriller in that kind of location, that kind of setting.
Yeah.
And the mark of a good thriller is like you're on the edge of your seat, and we were leaning back as far as possible. I think we were just like, okay. I think there was like one moment in this movie where I kind of was just like, oh, like I gasped. And I'm not talking about when Wahlberg breaks his thumb to like get out of the handcuffs. When he pops out and like stabs Topher.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. That was he kind of just like popped up with a knife and just started stabbing.
Yeah, he stabs him twice, and that's kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Aside from even like Mel Gibson isms in his films, Mel Gibson is always like, at least in the very least, he's a master at like story structure.
Yeah.
And this one, very loose with that, I mean,
I think what happened was he'll chew on like a scene a little longer. This, he was given like a very tight, like 90-minute runtime, and you could tell like they were just flying through details. Like things that should have unfolded over a longer period of time were just happening super quick. They're even telling you in the movie, it's like, hey, it's just a quick 90 minutes to Anchorage. Oh, 75 minutes to go. It's like they're telling you like how much time is left in the movie as you're going on. It's just like the clock's ticking down. It's like, yeah, I guess we better.
It's basically real time too.
Yeah,
once they get going,
it feels very real time.
Yeah.
All the way up to the point where she literally lands the plane in Anchorage, and the movie ends like a couple minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
After like one of the most rushed that ending, she lands the plane with Topher Grace like bleeding out next to her, and she lands the plane while Mark Wahlberg is trying to attack her. Mm-hmm. And she shoots him like 3 times. He falls down. They crash the plane. Fine sequence, whatever. It looked a little fake.
Some of the shots.
Some of the
some
shots
were convincing,
looked a little,
some not so much.
But still, like, okay, we get the plane on the ground. The door breaks open. Mark Wahlberg flips out of the plane and gets hit by a fire truck, kind of unceremoniously, although kind of funny still. But then
very unceremoniously,
the paramedics come in. They're like, okay, we got Topher Grace now. She's like, yep, get him out of here. He's got a couple stab wounds. They have him on a stretcher. He's fully conscious, and they're loading him into the back of a vehicle like he's stabilized already.
Yeah.
And then they put him in the back of the vehicle, and then she sees the guy who she was talking to on the headset the whole time.
Which we'll get to in a second.
We'll get to him in a second. But then you see this like super shady cop like walk behind him, and she immediately just starts like honing in on him.
It was so lame how they did it.
It was
like,
so just
it's on the guy she was talking to, then it rack focuses to that other guy, and he's just super suspicious looking. Yeah.
And she tracks him.
Yeah.
And then he gets in the ambulance where Topher Grace is, but there's no EMT in the back with him. He's just by himself. And then he closes the door, and she's like, this isn't right. She pulls her gun out, she runs up, she opens the door.
He's
already got a bag over his head,
yes.
and he's got a phone active with the person who's telling him to do this, who happens to be like the mole in the film.
Right, who's like one of her bosses.
It's such like, and she picks up the phone and she's like,
I like basically like, I got you.
The guy thinks it's the assassin. She's like, no, it's me, and I've got you dead to rights now. I'll see you in New York. Boop.
You're fucked.
It's so lame.
The whole thing was just tied up in this neat little bow. Like everything that needed to happen in like 60 seconds happens for you to get the conclusion of the film. It's like, what the fuck? Like none of that would have happened that way. None of it.
Not a chance.
When you got a runtime like that, you gotta make sure your story beats are really solid.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about Hassan.
Yeah, going back to Hassan.
So Hassan is like the friendly Indian guy that's guiding her through flying the plane back to Anchorage.
But when she calls her boss is like, we're going to set you up with a pilot.
Yeah.
And she connects him to the pilot. And the first thought was like, or she connected him to like a call center in India.
Sir, the attitude is not going to speed things up any bit at all.
That's where I'm going. Like, super thick, like Indian dude.
Somebody who needs to be like crystal clear with his directions on how to fly a plane.
But like, he seemed nice enough, you know? like a nice enough call center guy. But it was funny. At the end of the film, of course, like he's like hitting on her the whole movie. You know?
Of course, like super confident Indian dude.
Yes, exactly. Like, he's asking her out on dates and shit.
But I wanted to tell you, you have excellent boobies. I love your boobies, and I wanted to tell you, really, you're just very hot to me. And if you wanted to go on a date with...
At the end, when she lands, he shows up. He's this hot, like, Indian
like
guy. You know what I mean?
Indian dude.
Yeah,
It's
so
that didn't really match the voice.
Bullshit. So then the credits come up at the end, and it says, like, Hassan voice.
And then Hassan, like...
Different. It's like a different guy.
Yeah.
So they hired the call center guy for the voice.
But speaking of him, like, he's like... You could tell, like, every one of his lines is, like, pre-recorded. Like, it was just so painfully generic and bad.
Yeah.
But then there's multiple times she's on the phone with, like, different characters. Like, she's on the phone with, like, the director of like, the CIA or, like, the U.S. Marshal, whoever it was.
Yeah.
And then her boss. So she's got, like, these 3 people she's talking to at different times. And... her boss, she thinks her boss is the mole because Mark Wahlberg knows all these details about her personal life and her work life that like nobody should have access to. So she knows there's like a mole. So it ends up becoming like a mole hunt.
This whole operation was a mole hunt.
She immediately thinks it's her boss because her boss is like afraid to like elevate this to the director. She wants to like keep it like, let's get you on the ground first, get you safe, and then, you know, it's like suspicious, whatever. So she immediately calls the director, who ends up being the mole, and tells the director that she thinks her boss is the mole. She gets her boss killed, like in 2 seconds.
Aside from her being a bland character,
she's terrible at her job.
Like she's like, it's like, dude, this is why you don't let chicks do this shit. she kept making one chick decision after another.
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
She's trying to call for help on the radio, and after like 10 minutes of this, she's like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I forgot I have a fucking satellite phone in my bag. And it's
my
like,
God. She had a satellite phone the whole time. The action unfolds with Mark Wahlberg, and then like once they kind of subdue him the first time, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so brain dead. I actually have a satellite phone on me.
Right. Now,
we were like, what the fuck?
Are you serious?
That is not how you write a script.
No,
okay?
That's just what I'm saying about Mel Gibson. He doesn't make those kinds of rookie story 101 mistakes.
It's kind of weird because this is the type of situation where like you don't want to see your character make dumb decisions. You want to see your character make smart decisions, but they're put in a situation where they don't have a good move.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So like she could have immediately remembered she had a satellite phone, but like it was broken or something was wrong with it. She's like, fuck, and Topher Grace, you know, could have helped. Like, wait a minute, it's like it's damaged, but I can fix it real quick. Like,
or she could have pulled it out, and then in the struggle, it falls to the back of the plane.
Right, and she's got to get,
whatever, you know?
Stupid.
So stupid.
But there's like all these like decisions she makes throughout the film that are like this.
And it just adds up, and you're like,
it's just like, how'd you get this job? Oh, that's right. That's why you fucked up your previous assignment. That they have this little moment where she tells this like sob story.
She's got a past.
She's got a past.
Where she fucked up
her
another
only character
assignment.
Development, yeah.
Yes. So then you have that aspect where it's like, oh, the character's got that past, and like now she's not going to let that happen again. She's going to protect Topher Grace at all costs.
Right, at all costs, right?
You know?
Yeah. She lets him get stabbed twice.
Yeah.
But overall, it's just like, there's no real point to this movie. It's like, if you have 90 minutes to kill and you just want to throw it on in the background, that's about it. It's the ultimate January release.
Absolutely.
And for Mel Gibson, it's kind of embarrassing.
It's his worst film by far.
Yeah.
Like, by far. And again, like, I wasn't expecting this to be anything great or anything, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about quickly why we wanted to see it so much.
Because of fucking Mark Wahlberg and his weird hair.
Mark Wahlberg wears a toupee in the movie, and he's got a giant bald spot.
Yeah,
so
with a comb over.
With a comb over. It's like a thin little piece of hair. It's bald in the back and the front. It's just like a big, perfect, like bald spot.
Yeah, but the entire time we're thinking, why does this character have to be bald like that? What's the point of that?
The point is, I think, they knew going in, cutting the trailer for this, that people like us would be so interested in seeing what a movie with Mark Wahlberg with a giant bald spot as a hitman would be like, that we had to go see it.
It worked.
And it worked. We went to go see it.
It's the simple things in life you treasure.
Even though the film was terrible, we were watching it, and every time he was on screen and you'd see it, like, we would laugh.
Yeah.
So I guess...
And his character on top of that was, like, kind of funny. Because he's just saying ridiculous shit. All he's doing the whole time is talking about how much he wants to grape them.
Yeah. I can't say he's good, but he's entertaining.
Without him in this movie, I probably wouldn't have even seen it.
No. And but Wahlberg's kind of like subdued the whole, like most of the film too.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, so you kind of lose that. It's almost like he's got a supporting role in some regards, you know?
It didn't really feel like in 90 minutes that he had more than like 30 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for being one of the 3 characters in this location.
But bottom line is, this is even like mid-tier Netflix.
Mighty strong words, Ron.
Oh God,
Material.
yeah, I would be embarrassed even if for like Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend this
No.
movie. There's nothing really that drew us in outside of Wahlberg's
Hair.
fucking hair
Or lack of.
or lack of hair.
I'm gonna tear you apart.
Y'all need a pilot?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10.
Okay, I went 4.5 out of 10.
I mean, Mel, dude.
I mean-
it's a blemish, man.
I know.
But I still love Mel Gibson. Still believe in the guy. He's great.
Yep. New ambassador to Hollywood.
Whatever the hell that
Liaison,
means.
whatever the fuck
but
that
yeah,
means. I don't know, but-
great.
I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, you're seeing this happen in real time. What Quentin Tarantino has said about why he wants to retire after his 10th film, because there comes a point in everyone's career where you just kind of lose that edge, and you're just churning out whatever the fuck this is.
I don't know. Like
And
that's
it's
true.
hard to kind of break out from that. A
That's
lot
true,
of the
but, like,
greats are just falling down this path.
Hacksaw Ridge didn't come out too many years ago. 9 years ago. Yeah, I guess that is
Great movie.
But it is a good movie.
Yes,
you know what I
very
mean?
it's so crazy to think that the person that directed that
Yeah.
directed this.
Well, and in my opinion, before this came out, I do like that film, but in my opinion, that was sort of his weakest movie.
Oh,
and
not
like,
anymore.
But yeah, but I'm saying like to have.
I actually enjoy that film a lot.
If that's it's like how Avatar is James Cameron's weakest film, but it's like that's one hell of a weakest film to have. You know what I mean? That's sort of the same thing. The same way I feel about Hacksaw Ridge. I still really
Now,
like that film.
Gibson definitely has
Yes.
the weakest effort.
This is like if this was Mel Gibson's first movie, that like his first directorial debut, then yes, I would understand that. But no, we're talking like a fucking veteran.
Seasoned veteran.
Yes, and one of the all-time greats in terms of his
Well,
directorial
maybe it was
career.
a paycheck.
But even
it was a paycheck job.
Yeah, I don't know. But that again, though, it's just that's. I think that's probably why I'm as hard on it as I am, because it's just.
It's Gibson.
It's Gibson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you know, on the other scale, they definitely did not make her a Mary Sue.
No, not at all.
Yeah, if anything, she was incompetent.
She's very incompetent. He overpowers her.
Yeah, he
so-
overpowers her, you know,
yeah.
and then she gets the jump on him with the taser, equalizes that shit. I didn't get any kind of bullshit with her character like
No,
that.
there was no
it's
agenda.
It's Gibson too, so
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
There's nothing agenda.
No,
in this.
I think there's 0 rainbows.
Yeah, probably 0
Yeah.
for this. Nothing in this. This is, but still, it's just not a good movie.
No, it's just not woke.
No, it's not at all.
But it sucks.
But yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one.
No.
Even if you're a big Gibson fan, I'd skip it. There's nothing Gibson-esque about this movie.
No, but hey, man, I still love the guy.
Yeah.
So.
Still love him.